Hey there, it's Manny with Daddy Cool Records in St. Petersburg, Florida, and in this video we're going to go over all the releases that we have for Record Store Day drops for Saturday, June 18th. We got a lot of stuff to go over, so settle in. All right, before we jump into what we have, let's just go over some of the basic Record Store Day 411. On Record Store Day drops Saturday, June 18th, we will be opening at 11 a.m., our normal business hours. We will be letting everybody in from our trail side entrance, so if you happen to get here before 11, you're going to be entering through the trail side entrance. There will be parking available on the Fairfield side, and you can come through the building, but we're asking that everybody come in through the trail side. Also, as usual, we are cashless, so please cashless payments. Apple Pay, Google Pay are accepted, as well as debit and credit cards and gift certificates. Also, we're asking that masks are recommended as well, especially in the early hours when we will be crowded. Also, as we've always done, all of our Record Store Day products will be in the bins, mixed in their section. So the Miles Davis release will be with the other Miles Davis records. Okay, let's get into some of the things that, let's talk about Record Store Day drops and what it was designed for. This year, it was a date that was set up to have the releases that we're unable to make in the warehouses for the April date in time. So we've got a bunch of titles that didn't make it in April in time, now in June. Well, lo and behold, there were also titles that couldn't make it to the warehouse in time for June, so those got pushed back to Black Friday. Real quick, that would be Vitamin String Quartet, Ringo Starr, the Watchmen soundtrack, as well as the Mimic soundtrack, the Cowboys soundtrack, which was a John Williams piece, also Johnny Thunders and the Heartbreakers demos that got pushed back to Black Friday, as well as the Paquito de Riviera and Arturo Sandoval. Their reunion album was pushed back to Black Friday. That list you can find on our website, daddycool.com. Look for the liner notes tab, and from there look for RSD inventory. And you will see there's a spreadsheet for items that got pushed back to Black Friday. There you will also find a spreadsheet detailing the items that we still have in stock from April, as well as what we have in stock for June. And those would include artists, title, prices, and quantity. All the things you'll want to know. We're still waiting word on the Art Blakey, which I'm sure we'll see on Friday, as well as the McCartney, the Paul McCartney and St. Vincent. Hopefully we will see that on Friday. I have been told that the quantities on that are extremely limited. So if that is your number one, maybe get here a little early. All right, so let's get into some of these releases. Let's talk about them. First, we've got the Credence Clearwater Revival 7-inch with Traveling Band and Who'll Stop the Rain. This was recorded live in 1970. There are 5,000 copies of these available in the U.S., and it is a Record Store Day exclusive. Okay, next we have from Hailstorm, they're Back from the Dead. It is listed as a 7-inch, but you will find it in the 10-inch section at Daddy Cool Records because it's a special die cut with a bigger packaging. It won't fit with the 7 inches, so it's going to be in with our 10 inches. Again, this is Hailstorm, Back from the Dead. There are 2,800 copies in the U.S., and it is RSD exclusive. Okay, and the last 7-inch that we have would be the Mike Watt and Larry Mullins Funhouse 7-inch. This is Funhouse, the Stooges song, in two parts, side A, side B, parts 1 and 2. Both Mike Watt and Larry Mullins were in the last incarnation of the Stooges, the touring band, so this should be pretty cool. Half of the records were pressed on colored wax and half on black. They're sealed, so we have no idea what color these are. All right, we have a cassette. There were 650 of these made. We have one of them. This is the Keith Richards Talk is Cheap album on one cassette, and then the second cassette is the Expensive Winos, his band, live at the Hollywood Palladium. Okay, and we have one CD on this Record Store Day. This is one of two brand new releases This one is from Wilco. It's their album Cruel Country. It is a 2-disc set. It is $16.99, and we don't have a release date yet for the vinyl, but you can get this special pre-release packaging on CD for Record Store Day. All right, first up, we have the album leaf with their past and future tenths. It is a double LP. It is limited to 950 copies in the U.S. We have one, I believe. It is a double LP. It combines 3 out-of-print EPs and one new EP, one EP of new music. So 4 sides, 4 EPs, one of them completely brand new, and 3 previously released. Opaque galaxy color. Next we have Billy Bragg's Life's a Riot with Spy vs. Spy. This is the 30th anniversary edition. It is a RSD exclusive, limited to 1,800 copies in the U.S. Paul Butterfield Blues Band, The Lost Electra Sessions. This is limited to 5,000 copies in the U.S. It is a triple LP. It was the Lost Sessions recorded between 1964 and 1966, featuring the classic lineup from the Paul Butterfield Blues Band. Okay, next we have the 25th anniversary of Collective Soul's Discipline Breakdown. It is on a red colored vinyl. There are 5,000 copies available in the U.S. Okay, next we have Daughtry's recent album, Dearly Beloved. It is limited to 1,800 copies. It is on a teal and purple colored vinyl, and it is a Record Store Day exclusive. Okay, we have another Record Store Day exclusive from Dio. This is Double Dose of Donnington. It is limited to 2,700 copies in the U.S. We scored 1. It is a 12-inch picture disc. Each side features 1 live track from the Dio band at Donnington, one from 1983 and one from 1987. Next we have a Countrypolitan album from Fats Domino. It was originally released in 1963. It is an RSD exclusive, limited to 1,500 copies. Here we have a triple LP, Peter Gabriel, Live Blood. It was recorded in 2011. This is where Peter Gabriel reworked classic tracks with a 46-piece orchestra and performed live. Speaking of live, we have a live album from the Jerry Garcia Band, the Acoustic Man. It is entitled Ragged But Right. It was recorded in 1987, and it was originally released in 2010. And for Record Store Day 2022, it is getting the vinyl treatment. Next, we have the 15th anniversary of the Go Team's album, Proof of Youth. It is limited to 900 copies in the U.S. We have 1. It is reissued on a limited edition bubblegum colored vinyl, and it also has a 7-inch flexi disc inside. Another live album, Steve Hackett, The Tokyo Tapes, 1,500 copies in the U.S. It is an RSD exclusive. It was originally recorded in 1996. It has some additional studio tracks. It is on white vinyl, and it was cut at Abbey Road Studios. Okay, this is a really interesting piece, kind of what Record Store Day is all about. This is Linda Hoover with her album, I Need to Shine. It is limited to 2,000 copies. The album features a pre-Steely Dan. Half of the songs were written by Becker and Fagan. Also, Skunk Baxter is in the band. The album was shelved because of business disagreements. So this is the first time this album is being released. Once again, this is Linda Hoover's I Need to Shine. Another cool piece from the Kinks on a Record Store Day. That would be the Waterloo Sunset EP, limited to 3,150 copies in the U.S. This is the 55th anniversary of this classic single. The artwork features the original 1967 French release artwork. All tracks are cut at mono and remastered, 45 RPM, yellow colored vinyl. Cool piece from the Kinks. Madness, Baggy Trousers. This is limited to 1,850 copies. It is a Record Store Day exclusive. Baggy Trousers was a 1980 single from Madness. It is now fleshed out as a 12-inch EP with bonus tracks. Next we have a Record Store Day exclusive from Linda Martel, limited to 2,000 copies in the U.S. It is entitled Color Me Country. Linda was the first African-American woman to make the country charts and appear at the Grand Ole Opry. This is her 1970 debut and her one and only album. Right, next we have a live album from My Morning Jacket, live from RCA Studio A. This is James Acoustic. It is 7 tracks from the latest My Morning Jacket album, performed in the famed RCA Studios in Nashville by Jim James, limited to 5,000 copies in the U.S. All right, next record that we anticipate to be very popular. This is Pearl Jam's Live on 2 Legs. It was originally released in 1998. It is 16 tracks on crystal clear colored vinyl. It is a double LP. There are 20,600 copies of this in the U.S., so hopefully you will have an easy time getting it on Record Store Day and probably afterwards as well. Knock on wood. Okay, this is much like the Linda Hoover, another record that I really like. What Record Store Day does, bringing out these old records that you might not be familiar with. This is a band called The Rationals. This is their 1970 studio debut and also their only album. The Rationals were the cornerstone of Detroit's ever-storied rock history. They came out of Ann Arbor in 1964 and gave an authentic R&B twist to the new rock and roll styles of the British invasion. By 1967, the Rationals were firmly embedded in the Detroit music scene alongside such contemporaries as the MC5, the Stooges, Bob Seger's System, and the Amboy Dukes. They were frequently on bills at the Grand Ballroom and acted as a supporting act for artists like Cream and Hendrix and Pink Floyd when they played the Detroit area. So this is their 1970 Soul LP. It has been remastered and pressed on orange and yellow splattered vinyl at Third Man Records. Next we have live and experimental recordings from 1971 and 1972 from the Residents. This is an RSD exclusive, limited to 2,000 copies. It is a double LP. The first record has 2 shows on it. One show, both of them from 1972, one on side A, one on side B. And then sides C and D are studio recordings titled 1 through 10 with a touch of 11. That is on the side A and side B of record 2. So some real early studio tracks and live performances from the Residents. Slash with Miles Kennedy live at Studio 60 in celebration of his latest album 4. Slash with Miles Kennedy and the Conspirators went to Studio 60, performed their album live in its entirety, plus 4 extra tracks. This is an RSD exclusive. It is limited to 2,250 copies, and I believe we have one. Again, you can go to our website, daddycool.com, look for that liner notes tab and look for the RSD inventory, and you'll find exactly how many we have on hand of each of these titles. Next we have a bluegrass album from Ralph Stanley. This is titled The Bluegrass Sound. It is limited to 1,500 copies in the U.S. It is an RXD exclusive. It is the first time it has been reissued since its original pressing in 1968. And it is on 180 gram vinyl, green color. Okay, next we have an album from a band called Sun's Signatures. A lot of people who have been asking us for Cocteau Twins albums that we've been unable to get. This might be up your alley. It features Elizabeth Fraser, the singer from the Cocteau Twins, as well as Damon Reese, who is the drummer in Spiritualize and Echo and the Bunnymen. Once again, this is the band Sun Signature. It is an RXD exclusive, limited to 3,700 copies in the U.S. All right, much like the Wilco, this is a new album from Surfboard. It was, I'm going to assume, released digitally. This is the physical format now. It is entitled Keep On Truckin', limited to 1,000 copies, and I believe we have one. The Sweet Platinum Rare Volume 2, limited to 2,500 copies. It is an RSD exclusive. These are more rare and unreleased recordings from the vault of lead guitarist Andy Scott of The Sweet. Okay, next we have Voivod's Nothing Face. It is limited to 4,500 copies. This 1989 classic is being reissued on pink with blue swirl colored vinyl. Warrior Soul, they were popular in the metal scene in the late 80s, early 90s for the most part. This is an album called Odds and Ends, rare and never been on vinyl outtakes. It is limited to 500 copies on red vinyl, and we have one. Gerard Way of My Chemical Romance, his solo album from 2014 called The Hesitant Alien is getting reissued as an RSD exclusive. 4,725 copies in the US. It is on blue colored vinyl. Okay, The Who, It's Hard. This is the 40th anniversary edition of this LP. It is a double vinyl, 6,000 copies in the US, cut at half-speed mastered. The album itself is on 3 sides, and then the 4th side includes rare and unreleased material. Next, we have another RSD exclusive. It is limited to 2,500 copies in the US. It is entitled Sweet Relief. It was a benefit album for Victoria Williams. In the early 90s, she was gaining a lot of popularity and a lot of MTV play and whatnot. And then she was also diagnosed with multiple sclerosis and a double whammy, no health insurance. So an army of her friends and fans put together this benefit album to help raise money for her at that time. It features all Victoria Williams tracks, so you will find it in the Victoria Williams section, but you've got like Evan Dando from the Lemonheads, Pearl Jam, Soul Asylum, Lou Reed, Jayhawks, Giant Sand. I mean, the list of artists read like a who's who from the early 90s. Once again, this is Victoria Williams, Sweet Relief. Next we have an RSD curated album. This was curated by the owner of Twist and Shout Records in Denver, Colorado. This is the band World Party. It's kind of like a best of album, and it includes several rare versions of some of their songs, and the album was pressed in Tokyo, Japan. Okay, lastly, in the rock side of things from a Record Store Day, we have this various artists compilation called Go Ahead Punk, Make My Day. In the early and late 90s, we would see a lot of really cool compilation records from labels like Fat and Epitaph and Nitro. So this is one that came out in 1996 from Nitro. It was a low-dose sampler, featured 10 tracks from bands like the Vandals, Jughead's Revenge, Guttermouth, AFI, and The Offspring. Also, there's a version of Hey Joe by The Offspring, which was originally only available on this comp. It is pressed on an orange splatter colored vinyl. Woo! Once again, all of our Record Store Day items are placed in the bins in their regular section. We're going to go over the items that you would find in our R&B and hip hop section. We'll start off with the brand new Heavies. This is limited to 3,500 copies in the US on orange colored vinyl. It is their album Heavy Rhyme Experience Volume 1. It is the 30th anniversary of this classic album. Okay, next we have Ray Charles, Genius Loves Company. It is limited to 2,000 copies. This was originally released in 2005. It's a duets album featuring Bonnie Raitt, Van Morrison, B.B. King, James Tyler, Norah Jones, a cavalcade of stars performing with Ray Charles. Next we have another unearthed gem by Record Store Day. It is an RSD exclusive, limited to 2,500 copies in the US. It is Esther Myro's Sister Woman LP. It is a overlooked gem from the Fantasy Records catalog. It was originally released in 1972. It finds her incorporating socially conscious lyricism with a blend of jazz, gospel, and R&B influences. It's back on vinyl for the first time since its original release. This reissue features an all-analog mastering from the original analog tapes by Kevin Gray at Coherent Audio. It is pressed on 180-gram black wax at RTI, and it is housed in a tip-on jacket. So it ticks off all the boxes of high-quality craftsmanship. Okay, next we have an RSD exclusive from MF Doom with his pseudonym Victor Vaughn. The Vaudeville Villain is the name of the album, but you can find it under the MF Doom section at Daddy Cool Records. It was originally released in 2003. Next we have a 2 LP set on dragon fruit colored vinyl. It is limited to 3,000 copies. It is the 2009 mixtape Now on Wax by Nicki Minaj entitled Bing Me Up, Scotty. All right, Prince the Gold Experience. On Friday, June 17th, it has reissued on CD, and on Friday, June 18th, you can pick it up on vinyl for Record Store Day. It is a double LP on gold colored vinyl. The album itself is on 3 sides, and then the 4th side contains the I Hate You remixes and whatnot. A very cool reissue. Okay, next we have Barry White with his album No Limit on Love. It is an RSD exclusive, limited to 2,000 copies in the US. It was first released in 1974. It's one of Barry White's first solo albums, and it features the backing band, the Love Unlimited Orchestra. It is reissued on 180-gram vinyl and is gold color. Okay, next we have the Young Holt Unlimited Plays Superfly. If you're unfamiliar with Young Holt Unlimited, it is Eld Young and Red Holt. They were formerly in the Ramsey Lewis trio, and in 1966 they started their own band, establishing themselves as the best known instrumental groups mixing jazz and R&B into songs that captured the essence of the late 60s and early 70s. This 1973 album features the band playing music from the Superfly soundtrack on side A, and then side B has them performing their versions of contemporary songs and originals from 1973. Jazz. All right, next we're going to get into the jazz releases for Record Store Day. We're going to start off with a box set from Hasan Ali. It is entitled Retrospect and Retirement of Delay. So he's a pianist. These tracks were recorded in the early 60s. A group of fans were recording him performing standards, jazz standards on solo piano. So this is a 4 LP set. Solo piano. Very cool. Speaking of very cool, the birth of cool, Mr. Cool himself, Miles Davis. This is an album that was recorded live in July of 1983. It's a double LP. It features John Scofield on guitar, the other, Bill Evans, on saxophone and flutes and electric piano, Daryl Jones on bass. Daryl Jones played with Miles Davis. He is now currently the bass player for the Rolling Stones. As well as Al Foster on drums and a percussionist on this live album. So it features tracks from the Star People album that came out that year. And then there were also songs from this recording that Miles ended up editing and putting on a future studio album as well. So really cool stuff. Miles Davis. It's a double LP. It clocks in at a really good price, $27.99. Go to that liner notes tab on our website and find out just how many we have in stock. And speaking of how many we have in stock, this would be a very limited number for this one right here, the Bobby Hamilton Quintet Unlimited. His album Dream Queen. It is from the 70s, It is a spiritual jazz. It is limited to 1,000 copies in the U.S. Speaking of spiritual jazz, we have this Freddy Hubbard live at Studio 104 in Paris, France from the early 1970s. It is an RSD exclusive, limited to 1,500 copies. All right, we're going to get into some of the soundtracks that we have for Record Store Day. First up would be Big Night. It is an RSD exclusive, limited to 2,500 copies. It is the first time it has been on vinyl. It is a crystal clear colored vinyl. Killer movie if you have not seen it. The music in it is basically from the 1950s, featuring like Rosemary Clooney, Louis Prima for sure, and Keely Smith as well. I love it. It reminds me of spending time in my grandfather's kitchen. Next we have the Fast and Furious Tokyo Drift soundtrack. It is a double LP. I believe the D side is etched. All right, next we have the Royal Tenenbaums. Not very many of these pressed, not very many of these on hand. This is contains the score that Mark Mothersbaugh composed, as well as some songs from the 60s and through the 90s. It is a 2 LP set on sky blue and olive green colored vinyl. It says it has a die-cut gatefold sleeve. There are a couple different versions of this soundtrack when this album first came out in 2001. The 2002 version had Paul Simon and John Lennon and Bob Dylan. This version does not have those tracks on it, but it's very true to the 2001 version. Okay, once again, not very many copies, Royal Tenenbaums. Next we have 50 years of TV's greatest hits. It is an RSD exclusive, limited to 2,500 copies. It features TV theme songs from the 60s all the way up through the 90s. All right, we have some killer reggae reissues for Record Store Day Drops 2022. We'll start off with Love Is All I Bring. It is limited to 1,125 copies. It is on a double orange colored vinyl, and it showcases the female artists from Trojan Records. Okay, next up, limited to 1,500 copies in the US, an RSD exclusive from Soul Jazz. Soul Jazz Records presents Studio One Classics. So this is just a stone cold classic double LP on purple colored vinyl. It includes a download code as well. Okay, next from Soul Jazz, also limited to 1,500 copies, an RSD exclusive. This is 100% dynamite, ska, soul, rock steady, and funk in Jamaica. And then one last Record Store Day reggae record, and that would be Greensleeves, label Greensleeves Ganja Anthems. It is 1,500 copies, and RSD exclusive. Of course, it is on green colored vinyl. All right, that is a wrap of the Record Store Day June Drops releases. Again, go to our liner notes tab on our website, daddycool.com. Look for our RSD inventory. You will find an updated real-time list of how many records we do have available and the costs. Again, we're open at 11 a.m. We are cashless, and people will be entering from the trail side. All right, well, hopefully we will see you soon.